Have you ever walked into a coffee shop and looked at all of the amazing, delicious drinks and just wished that you could make those drinks right at home with natural ingredients for less money and with tea instead of coffee? Well, if that's you, then you're in the right place because I'm going to show you how to make 5 really delicious drinks. And if that's not you and that's not something you've ever dreamed of, well, you might stick around anyway because these drinks are absolutely delicious. We're going to make a chicory mocha with rose cold foam, peach boba tea, a gingerbread latte, a cold brew chicory with cream and caramel, and a melon matcha frappe. So let's get started. For the rose cold foam, all you're going to do is put half a cup of cream into a really small saucepan, a teaspoon of sugar, and 2 tablespoons of pink rose petals. These are just dried rose petals. And then what I'm going to do is bring it to a really gentle simmer. So you want it bubbling just a little bit, but you don't want it boiling. If it boils, then it's going to be really hard to whip up into the cold foam. So you just want it to simmer just really gently. So that'll just take a few minutes. So you can see it's just barely starting to get some bubbles, so we're going to remove it right away and cover it with a lid. And then we're just going to set it aside and let it infuse for 15 minutes. So once it has sat for 15 minutes to allow the beautiful flavor of the roses to infuse into the cream, you're just going to strain it off. And I'm just using the same cup I measured the cream with because that's totally fine to do. And I like saving dishes. And then you're just going to allow this to cool completely. I actually like to stick it in the fridge and just let it chill. So all I have here is a teaspoon each of roasted cacao shells and roasted chicory root. And I'm just gonna add these to my strainer and then add the boiling water over top. And while it brews, I'm gonna go ahead and whip up my cold foam. I'm just gonna brew this for 5 minutes. Or a little longer if you want, but chicory root can get better if you brew it too long, so I would be careful not to brew it too long. And then right here in this jar, I have my rose cream that was infusing and chilling in the fridge. And I am just gonna take my little handy milk frother here and I'm going to whip it. You don't want a full-fledged whipped cream, but you kind of want just a thickened, foamy cream. So it's done brewing and I'm just gonna take out the strainer, and then you can add a little sweetener if you want. I'm just adding a splash of maple syrup, and then I'm just going to pour my rose infused cold foam really gently on the top. This is so good. The light creamy sweetness mixed with the roasted chicory and the chocolate is just absolutely delicious. The melon matcha frappe is probably the easiest one to throw together because you just throw everything in the blender and blend it all up. And it is absolutely delicious for an afternoon pick-me-up or even a breakfast smoothie because it is so good. You could just add a little avocado to add some extra fats and it'd be amazingly delicious. So you can make this 2 different ways. You can make it with 2 cups of ice and then add in your fresh melon. I like to make it by pre-freezing my melon and then using that as the frozen thing. So I have 2 cups of melon here. You can use cantaloupe or honeydew or both, along with 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. You can adjust that to the sweetness level you like. I'm going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla and 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of my matcha. I'm gonna do 2 teaspoons of this absolutely beautiful matcha. Some people might not like as strong of a flavor with that, so you can adjust it the way you want it. And about 2 cups of milk of your choice. You might need to add a little extra milk to make it liquidy enough, but you can just adjust that to the way you need it. And then I'm just gonna blend it up. So we got it all blended up, and then we're just gonna pour it into our cup. This drink is so refreshing, just the light melon flavor with the beautiful herby flavor of the matcha. And of course the frozen drink makes it super extra refreshing on a hot summer day like today is. What I mixed up makes about 2 drinks, so you can add to it if you have a family like mine that will be waiting in line for this drink. The gingerbread latte is really great because it throws together really quickly. There's no prep work involved, and I love this drink. It has a really strong ginger cinnamon spice flavor, and then with a little sweetness of maple syrup and the little creaminess of the foamed milk, and it's really, really good. So we're just gonna throw this together. So I have a teaspoon of ginger root, half a teaspoon of cinnamon bark, and a quarter teaspoon of cloves. And I'm just gonna put these in my tea strainer and pour over my boiled water. And I'm just gonna let this simmer for about 5 minutes. While this brews, I'm gonna make my foamed milk, and I'm simply going to take a small pan on my burner here, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of whole milk. Again, you can use whatever milk you want. Bring it up to a simmer. You don't need to bring it to a boil. It's just kind of getting kind of steamy here. So I'm gonna turn it off, and I am just going to foam it with this. Basically, we're just making nice frothy steamed milk. Okay, so we're gonna take the tea strainer out because it's all finished brewing. I'm just gonna set that aside. And then I'm just gonna sweeten it with a splash of maple syrup. You can do that or skip it and do it to your desired sweetness. I'm just gonna mix it and then pour in our frothy milk. So it's basically like a delicious gingerbread latte without the coffee, and it really is so good. So this one is a cold brew chicory, and then we're gonna add some cream and some homemade caramel syrup. First, I'm gonna show you how to make the cold brew chicory tea, and then I'll show you how to make the caramel syrup, and then we'll put it all together. So for a cold brew chicory, all you're gonna do is add about half a cup of roasted chicory root into a quart jar, and then all I'm gonna do is add some purified water and fill it all the way to the rim. And then I'm just gonna put a lid on this, and I'm gonna put it in my fridge, and I'm gonna let it sit overnight. So caramel syrup is really easy to make, and this stuff's great because it'll last for quite a while in the fridge, and then you can use it to mix into your cold brew chicory or anything else that you want caramel syrup in. So we're gonna take just like a medium-sized saucepan, and I'm gonna add 2 cups of water to it and a cup and a half of brown sugar. You can use regular sugar too, but I love the caramely richness of the brown sugar. And then I'm just gonna turn the burner on to kind of a medium high and bring this to a boil. So once it comes to a boil, I'm just gonna turn it down and let it simmer kind of at a slow boil for about 15 minutes. So once it's finished simmering for the 15 minutes, I'm just gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla, and then you could also add a pinch of salt if you want it to be more of a salted caramel syrup. And then we're just gonna pour it in a jar, and ideally you let it cool completely, but because I'm really eager for my drink, I'm going to use it while it's still hot. But then you just put a lid on it and store it in your fridge. And as you can see, a lot of these drinks take a little bit of prep, but then they're in the fridge and they're ready to go whenever you want them. Okay, so the chicory has sat for the 12 hours in the fridge, so we're just going to strain it off and get all the luscious tea out of there. So I'm just pouring this through a tea strainer into a different jar. So now I'm just going to teach you how to mix up the cold brew caramel chicory now that we have all of our ingredients. So I'm just going to take my cup and I'm going to add some ice to it. Then I'm going to fill it about probably 2/3 of the way full with the chicory tea. And then I'm going to add a little bit of our caramel sauce, and you can adjust this to how sweet you want it. And I'm gonna top it off with, I'm just using whole milk, but you can use, whatever kind of milk you want. And then our cold brew caramel chicory is ready to drink and enjoy. So with boba tea, there are so many different flavor options that you can do. So many of them are so delicious. So we are going to make a peach boba tea with green tea. And of course with boba tea, there is a little bit of prep work because you have to make the boba bubbles and the fruit layer, but we'll just go through the steps and put it all together and show you how amazing and easy it is to do. So for the peach layer, I'm just going to take 3 peaches and I'm going to peel them and cut them and take the pits out. You don't have to chop them really small. I'm just going to cut them up just a little bit, and then I'm going to add them into my saucepan. in experimenting with the boba tea, we also did a blueberry one. So there's lots of options with this. So I'm just adding 2 tablespoons of sugar into the peaches, and then we're just gonna let it simmer just gently until the peaches are warm and mushy, and then we're just gonna use an immersion blender to blend them into a puree. I'm kind of chunking them up and stirring them as I go. This takes maybe, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. So this is finished simmering, and I'm just going to mix it into a puree with my immersion blender here. Just be really careful because it's still hot, so don't splatter yourself with it. Or your cameraman. Okay, so it's all blended up, and I'm just going to set it aside to cool. So for the boba balls, I just bought these instant kind of ones that I got online. I will admit I'm not perfectly happy with them because I don't like that they have some artificial flavors and colors, but they were really tasty and that they were tender, which is great. So one of these days I want to experiment by trying some new ones that are more natural and or also even making my own. But in the meantime, I'm just cooking these according to the package directions. So you just bring 10 cups of water to a boil, and then you add in 1 cup of the boba balls, the tapioca pearls, and you just stir it really gently and then let it boil until the tapioca pearls float to the top. Then you're just going to cover it and turn it down to medium and allow them to sit there and simmer for about 3 to 5 minutes. So I have my cooked tapioca balls here. We kind of cut out some of it, but once you let them simmer for the 5 minutes, then you just turn the heat off and let them sit for another 2 to 5 minutes. And then there's different ways to process boba balls at the end. Some people let them cool completely and then make a sugar syrup. This is the way I like to do them, so I just strain them off. They're still hot, and I'm just gonna pour them into this glass dish. And then I'm just gonna add 4 tablespoons of brown sugar into it. I love that it kind of just, since they're all still hot, it just kind of makes its own sugar syrup that way, so it saves me a little bit of cooking on the stove. So once you've got your sugar in there, you're just going to gently mix it around until the sugar's all dissolved. And that is what makes a really delicious syrup. And then I'm just gonna set these aside to cool. Okay, so we've made our tapioca boba balls and our peach puree. And then one other thing that I did not show you how to make is just brewing your tea. So I just simply made green tea by adding my green tea leaves into a 1/2 gallon jar, adding the boiling water, and then I just strained it off and let it ice in the fridge all day so that it's all ready to go. So now we're just gonna mix together our boba tea. So I have my boba balls and my peach puree and my already iced green tea. And then I have my milk here, which actually I mixed a little bit of whole milk with just a tiny bit of cream to make it just a little extra creamy, and my ice. Starting by adding my boba balls, you can add as many or as few as you want. I'm adding about 3 or 4 tablespoons, I guess. That's 3 tablespoons. And then I'm just gonna pour a little bit of my peach puree right on top of that. Then I'm gonna add in my ice, and you're just gonna kind of fill it the rest of the way, all the way to the top with ice. Then you can really carefully add your other things on top. If you kind of hit the ice with it, you might maintain your beautiful layers. I'm really bad at this part. So I'm just going to add a little bit of my milk, and then my iced green tea. And you have this amazingly delicious peaches and cream green tea boba drink. Stir it up and enjoy. So making fancy, luscious tea drinks at home is really, really fun and easy to do. And the best thing about it is that you get to make it the way you like it to taste. So you can make it as sweet or as not sweet as you want it, and then enjoy it at home. And a lot of times you get multiple drinks out of one recipe. So thank you so much for joining us for this video. I hope that you enjoy some of these tea drinks at your home. And if you liked this video, please like and subscribe to keep up to date on all the videos we're putting out. Thanks again for watching. That is so good. This thing's distracting. Cream, all you're gonna do is strain it off and turn the timer off. Hey! They go really quickly at my house.